this is May and welcome back to my channel for a brand new speed build. So today I am making a small mall with a food court in Newcrest as part of my save file, and as always I do have a playlist up on my channel with all the builds I've done so far, so if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure to do so after this video. I'm pretty excited to be sharing today's build with you because I had a really fun time planning this and decorating it. So the initial idea of this came from one of my Twitch viewers, since I do stream over there a couple times a week, and I remember I wanted to start one of the remaining lots in Newcrest, but I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to make here. So I got a lot of great suggestions, some which I already had added elsewhere, so we were kind of on the same wavelength, I feel like. And then the idea of a food court came up somewhere, and I really liked that. So I decided to look up a couple of inspiration photos on Pinterest and Google as well, just to get a look and feel for how I could do it myself. And I knew I wanted it to be somewhat modern, and if I could be able to make it stand in style with the neighboring lot, then that would be even better. And I think I managed to do that. So the lot on the right hand side here is actually a recreation center that I made just a couple months back by now, I do believe. I also have a speed build of that up on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out after this video. And that build is also quite modern. I loved mixing some darker colors with the more lighter, warmer wood swatch. The exterior for that build was also a lot of fun to do with the basketball court, little flower market area, and a playground for kids. So I wanted to kind of bring that vibe over to today's build as well. So I used some similar textures and colors. Obviously, that would make the two builds go more seamlessly together. So I imagine that when they were renovating this area or building it up, since this neighborhood has turned out to be quite modern, like Scandinavian modern inspired, maybe, that they built both the recreation center and the mall at the same time, or around the same time at least. So I guess that would make sense that they go so well together in terms of looks. Today's build is more like a container build though, or not really, but I used a container or metallic wallpaper from the Eco Lifestyle pack for the build at least. So I would imagine that there were containers put together to make this little mall or food court. I'm not really sure what exactly to call it, but something like that. There's just a lot of little stores put together. There will be some food stalls outside and different benches where you can sit and eat. And I'll get back to that in a moment, like explaining all the details and the ideas behind them. So the idea of this was very simple, basically just these two boxes next to each other that I wanted to connect somehow. And I found all of these different inspiration photos as mentioned, and some of them had this roof over the middle part. And most of them were glass roofs, so I did try that out with a regular roof, and this was before we got the new glass wallpaper update, I do believe, because I had to somehow hide the wall part of the roof, and I wasn't really into how it was looking. So eventually I got rid of that and instead did something similar I've done on the neighboring lot, and it was to take some of these Eco Lifestyle dividers and rotate them using the tool mod by Twisted Mexi. It might sound complicated to do, but it just took me a couple of minutes really, because you can multi-select objects with tool mod and rotate them all together, so you don't have to do it one by one, otherwise that would have been really time consuming. So I'm pretty sure you can hold down Control on your keyboard and just select multiple items. So I rotated those dividers at the top of each of the boxes so they meet like in the middle, and in the end it kind of turned into a roof. It doesn't cover anything like in particular, it would rain like straight through it, but it's mostly just for the aesthetic, and I wanted this to cover this middle outdoors part that I really like. I wanted to use the upstairs space as well, and I considered making sort of a bridge between the two boxes that didn't end up looking too good, so instead I just made these narrow walkways, I guess you can call them, on both sides, so you can walk back and forth easily between the stores. And you would have to get to the second floor, of course, too, and I didn't want to sacrifice any of the indoor space because everything is kind of small and compact. So at the front of the boxes, I just put in these regular stairs, which I thought was a nice location for them. At least, I think they look the best there. As for the front of the build, there's going to be some food stalls, as mentioned. I believe I found some like one modern looking stall from Eco Lifestyle and another one from Businesses and Hobbies that have very similar color schemes and textures. So I put those two together along with just a few benches and some umbrellas covering that area. There are these two green spaces in the middle of the pathway. I really wanted there to be something to kind of divide the space here, otherwise I feel like it would have looked too flat. So I put in some trees as well to not make that happen, like not have it too flat. Some different heights are always nice to divide areas as well, if that makes sense. On the other side of that, first I thought about having a fenced in little play area. There's not too much space to work with there to begin with, so if I did want it to be a play area, it would have just been some monkey bars or swing set and that's it. So instead, I thought about having a small splash pad area. And you can get those sorts of items from the Growing Together expansion pack. There's this big whale item that's essentially a fountain as well, kinda. And there are other different splash pad items that kids, teens, adults, and so on can play in, which I thought was a really nice idea. It's a bit different, and I love that it's actually a functional area. Nothing unnecessary taking up a lot of space, and I felt like for this entire build I wanted there to be kind of a lot of things for your Sims to do and look at. In the middle part between the two buildings there's going to be a fountain running from one end to another, and then I wanted there to be a place for your Sims to sit and eat or something similar, so I added an elevated platform part on the right hand side with a fence around it, and I thought that looked nice and asymmetrical because on the other side I think I just wanted to, or I ended up with some benches to sit at. I think usually I would have gone for a more symmetrical solution, but then I thought maybe I should go outside of my comfort zone, and I just had a lot of fun coming up with this build and all the different stores that I'm going to talk about in a bit. At the back of the build, I found these really tall glass dividers that came with the Businesses and Hobbies pack. I've never used these before. I mean, the pack is still pretty new, to be honest, so I haven't really been able to find a build where they fit yet. But for this one, I think I just randomly found this item and picked it up from the catalog and placed it here. And I just came up with this idea of putting several of these dividers together in the back to make sort of a community garden place, or for the flower shop to be growing some of their flowers there right outside the store. So there will be a flower shop here among others. The first shop I was working on here though is actually one of my favorites out of all the ones here. It's on the second floor on the right hand side building. And what I like about this build in general is that there are a lot of different shops and different styles, some complementary and some not so much. But the first one I did here was sort of like a Japanese inspired bar, I guess you can call it. I used a lot of the Snowy Escape pack items along with other similarly themed items from other packs that kind of went well together. And what kind of prompted that idea was the small round or like curved bar from Businesses and Hobbies, I think it is. And then eventually I combined that with the kind of, I don't know, like luxurious looking bar back from Lovestruck. And that bar back has this kind of brown orangey swatch that matches really well with the orange, like dark orange concrete wall that I put in the room. So I felt like those worked really well together, and this isn't the biggest shop or room. It's quite small scaled and it wouldn't fit a lot of people. None of the shops would. But that's another thing that I kind of liked about this build, is that there are so many different shops, but they're small and compact. And sometimes for me, it is way easier to decorate rooms when they're on the smaller side and they don't necessarily have to match as well, like I mentioned. So I felt more freedom to do whatever I wanted within the space I had with none to less restrictions, if that makes sense. I feel like for this build, I'm gonna be behind on talking about the different rooms. So I'll probably talk about the previous room as the speed build goes on to the next one, but I hope that's okay. I really wanted to take my time to talk about the ideas and thoughts behind each of the shops. So yeah, the bar turned up pretty nice, if I do say so myself. Just a small seating area, and I think I used those ginormous standing lights from City Living for the first time. So basically I had this 4x1 space up against a wall. And first, I think I wanted to include some kind of aquarium item, but then I came across that light and put two of them together. And I think it looks pretty interesting. Like, it adds that kind of unique detail to the room. And then I think I just put in a bookcase, some clutter, and some counters by the window with some bar stools if you would rather sit there and have a drink. I also added a karaoke machine. I feel like that fits very, very well with the whole theme of that room. And the big plant I used here is from Businesses and Hobbies. It matches the vibe well too. And I really, really love that the flooring I've used throughout the rooms here. Both are from the same pack, but just two different versions. So it's like a nice worn concrete floor. The next room I was working on was a pottery studio. It's very quaint and kind of minimalistic. For this one, I actually wanted it to kind of stand in style with the previous room, so the bar. And the reason why I wanted to do that is in pottery, there is this technique or art of repairing broken pottery by mending the areas of breakage with this like golden lacquer or something similar. It's at least called kintsugi and it is Japanese, so I thought it may go hand in hand with the style of the bar in that sort of sense. Not sure if it actually makes sense, but that's at least the idea I had. And the idea of why I wanted these two areas to be next to one another. So there's just a pair of pottery wheels there and some display shelves along with working benches and a sink. I think that is necessary when you work with pottery. I added in a small couch and there is supposed to be a lecture board in that room, the one from Businesses and Hobbies where you can like do teaching to other Sims, but at the time of me recording this footage, there was this bug with the lecture board. I'm not sure if you know or you ran into it. So, but yeah, basically I wasn't able to put it in there, but it will be there once I upload this build because I do believe they have fixed that bug now. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for that room. Like I said, very simple and minimalistic. I don't remember if I mentioned this. I don't think so actually, but this is going to be a small business venue lot. And that's why there's going to be so many different shops and activities. And this whole lot is going to be owned by one of the Sims I've made for the save file. And I've decided to call this lot the box yard because of the container boxes kind of stacked upon one another. And it's kind of a yard, I suppose. So I wanted it to have a sort of trendy, hip name. And I think the box yard works. The next shop I was working on here was the tattoo studio, and for this one I really like the idea of a brick accent wall, just to make it look a bit more industrial, I guess. And I combined that with this dark green paneling from Businesses and Hobbies. And on one of those brick walls, where there's going to be a waiting area with some couches and all, I thought it would be fun to include this really colorful graffiti mural on the wall. I think it's like a leopard or something, and it's from the Lovestruck expansion pack. And then I thought it would be cool to combine that mural with this really interesting lighting piece, which of course I had to include in a bright yellow color. I can't remember the last time I've used that wall light. It's definitely not an item that works everywhere, but here I kind of thought it did. It fit the vibe at least. So yeah, just a small reception area with clutter. There will be a cash register, that kind of stuff. And then I've used a divider to, well, divide the space here in two. So one is the waiting area and the other is the actual tattooing part with the like tattooing bench or table and some mirrors on the wall where you can check your tattoo afterwards. And I think that's basically it for that room. The next one is what I would like to call the Trendy clothing store. Now, this one was kind of difficult for me to do, mostly because of the cow print pattern on the wall. That one's from Lovestruck, by the way, but that one in combination with this really like lime green, brat green color, if you will, is kind of what sparked the whole vibe for that store. So those two together made it look kind of hip and trendy in a way, I suppose. So yeah, we got a cash register area here with some lime green counters and some lockers in the back, along with a few boxes, so maybe some supplies that have just arrived. I imagine the lockers would be used for supplies as well, or maybe if someone's holding an item, they could just put it in there, like away in the lockers. Anything like that, really. I did include a fitting room with just some mirrors and some like knobs on the wall to hang the clothing you're trying on, and I guess a chair as well. Then there's this area in the middle. I've used one of the graffiti murals from high school years on the floor here. I thought that looked pretty good on the concrete actually, and it just gives the room a colorful, youthful touch, I suppose. And then I used this table with shoes, clothing, accessories, and so on, which is also from high school years. And I guess it's supposed to come with a thrift store lot theme coming with this pack. So it kind of makes sense that there are some clothing stuff in that pack. And yeah, just a mannequin that will be dressed in the final uploaded version of the lot. There are actually 2 mannequins here, and I think the high school years clothing worked really well for this type of store. Very like colorful with patterns. And I used the lime green versions of the clothing racks in here, going in style with the green counters. And yeah, just a little area for makeup and some clothing and shoes stacked into these like shelving units. And I really did end up liking this room too, even though it took me a while to figure it out. But yeah, very dark walls with colorful accents and patterns. There's another small room that I made downstairs, so we're on to the downstairs shops now. And the light blue room with the brick accents I thought would be a small studio for a chiropractor or something like that. So that room, like I said, is very small, so there's very limited space for me to work with, but I think I made it work. I split the room in 2, or I just used a regular wall to divide the space really. So yeah, just a small waiting area with a reception, and behind the counters I put in kind of like a locker for storing supplies, maybe some clothing, towels, that kind of stuff. And next to it, a fridge with maybe medication or I don't know, something like that you could buy from here. And on the other side of that wall, there is the massage table from Spa Day and some mirrors. And I also wanted to include just a couple of exercise equipment, such as the dumbbells and the yoga mat, just like if they wanted to show some exercises to their clients and stuff like that. And I also did include the skeleton statue, I guess you can call it. I feel like it fit well for the theme of like a chiropractor, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's basically it for that room. The shop next to this one is a cafe or coffee shop. I end up using the coffee station from Businesses and Hobbies, and I combined it with one of the newer swatches for one of the base game counters. I love those new swatches. And I think the coffee station area turned out pretty nice. I always forget about this one shelf item from high school years. It's supposed to fit with the boba tea making station, but I decided to use it here in the white swatch. I don't think this item has the best swatches, by the way. They're very colorful, some of them. So I decided just to go with the basic white. And then next to that, on the right side, I added a couple of shelves with some plates and bags of coffee beans. I think I even put in one of the holders with the fizz juice bottles that came from Eco Lifestyle. There's just like a lot of different versions of those. The cash register I added isn't functional, by the way, but I just like how it looks like. So I think majority of the shops here has a cash register without it functioning like how you would imagine it to, but it just adds that realistic touch to the shop. Other than that, there's just a couple of tables to sit at, and I managed to fit in the smallest stage with a keyboard and microphone for entertainment purposes, of course, like someone performing songs or telling jokes or something like that. I thought it would be a very small venue to start off, you know, if you want to do a gig. And then since there was this open space in the middle of the shop, I felt like I needed to add something that wouldn't take up too much space of what was left. And I came up with the idea of adding this building table, like building block table, essentially a Lego building table, I guess you can call it. It's from the Parenthood pack, and I thought this could be a fun little activity to do for no apparent reason, really. But I just think it works, and it is functional for kids and Sims older than that, and you can build together, like 4 Sims at the same time can use that item, which is nice. And then there's a very simple public toilet that I put together in between the next 2 shops. I wanted one of the toilet stalls to have the diaper changing table because obviously that's needed on a community lot like this one. Then we have arrived to the flower shop that I mentioned earlier on in the video. This one is quite light in terms of the color scheme in comparison to the rest of the build. So lots of the light woods and some pinks. And I'm using this beautiful pattern flooring again in here. And of course, we need the flower arranging table, which comes with the season's expansion pack, because with that one, you can obviously make flower bouquets that you're able to put on any of the display shelves here or stands in the shop, and you can sell it. So I've tried my best to keep the shop clean and simple, but still have enough shelves to put the flower bouquets on, and that you're able to actually sell them and restock them easily. So that works on a small business venue lot. Otherwise, you could also have this as a retail store if you would rather have it like that. You're able to sell more stuff with a retail store, actually, like bigger items. I kind of wish that was the case for the small business as well, to be honest. So I feel like that was probably the biggest letdown when it came to the businesses for me. And last but not least, the last shop for today is the bookstore. I totally fell in love with the seafoam green kind of color for the walls, accented with the grey concrete on the floor and grey exposed bricks on the walls. This too is just like a very open concept space, I would say, like some bookshelves along one of the walls here and then one lower bookshelf in the middle of the room to kind of act as a divider. And then there were some stands next to that displaying books. And I thought it ended up looking cute and compact. I would also imagine them to not only sell books here, but to sell stationery as well. So that's why I put in some arts and crafts clutter and some cards, stuff like that. I also put in a cork board. Very often I do use cork boards for my community lots as a space like where people can hang ads, missing pet posters, maybe job ads, I don't know, stuff like that. And yeah, I don't think there's anything else I missed saying about any of the stores. So other than that, I'm just finishing up the build here and we'll soon head into the screenshots. So that's basically it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content in the future. If you want to be notified of when I upload a video next, make sure to click the bell icon too. This build is playtested and up on my gallery. My ID is honeymaysims, or you can find me with the hashtag honeymaysims as well. You can also grab the tray files in the description. A big shout out to my Patreon supporters and my YouTube members. I appreciate you so much. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me today, and I can't wait to talk to you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Bye!